Okay, so let's check the resume. Shawn Ashmore has been acting actively since 1990 with an expansive resume of roles. You've surely seen his work in at least one of several TV shows, such as The Following, The Boys, Animorphs, and The Rookie, and some fantastic horror films like Frozen, not the cartoon, The Day, The Ruins, and Into the Dark's Culture Shock, which is still upsettingly timely. You can see him next in It Feeds from writer-director Chad Archibald in Black Fawn Films. It Feeds follows a psychic psychiatrist, played by Ashley Greene, as she attempts to save a young girl who is entangled with a parasitic entity that needs one thing: to feed. Ashmore plays a girl's father who will do anything to save his daughter, and Shawn, a fellow Canadian, by the way, has graciously taken the time to speak with us today.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for Kels. And you got a special drink over there too, which we're gonna get to after the break, right? Or you want to do it now? You want to do it now?
What I can do it now. Whatever works.
Sure. Yeah. Why don't we do it now, and then we'll rock the trailer, and we'll get Shawn in here.
Okay, so this is the Feed Me Randall, which is a combination of Dr. Pepper, Kahlua, and Fireball whiskey, which I feel like the Fireball has the whole like burning thing from It Feeds, the doctor because, psychiatrist, and Kahlua because you don't want to be sleeping too much with this movie. It's going to keep you awake and it's going to keep you spooked. So, and awesome. Feed Me Randall because who doesn't love Little Shop of Horrors?
Right. Okay. And taste test. Here we go.
It's a good balance.
I did a good job. Right on. We'll be sure to put that up on our Instagram as well. So we'll put the recipe. Obviously, please drink responsibly. And let's get let's not waste any more time. Let's get to It Feeds. Here's the trailer, the new film from Black Fawn Films, coming out on Black Fawn Distro as well. And let's rock the trailer, and we'll get Shawn in here right after the break.
Someone digging around in your mind takes a lot out of you.
Hi. Can I help you? I need to speak to Cynthia Winston. I need help.
I see things. What kind of things? There is something attached to that girl. Something terrible. We don't know these people. We can't trust them. Mom, I'm seeing. This won't be pleasant. If an entity has attached itself to you, it will be in the weakest part of your mind, where you hold the most pain. We'll need to go there to find it.
Cynthia, wake up! Where is she? Where is my daughter?
Wonderful.
Okay, that's It Feeds from Black Fawn Films. Of course, it's dropping in theaters on April 16th as part of National Canadian Film Day, presented by Real Canada. And obviously, it's going to be hitting theaters and VOD in the States as well on April 18th. Mr. Shawn Ashmore, thank you so much for making the time today. How you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
Excellent. How are you guys?
Not as busy as you probably, but we're burning the candle at both ends over here, I think, as well. So it's been a hectic week, but I know you've been doing interviews all day, so appreciate you kind of roping us in at the end here to make some time.
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
Awesome. Kels, you want to take it away? We got some questions for you. We did our homework, so here we go.
We lined up. Yeah. So as I understand it, you and Ashley Greene worked together on Aftermath in 2021, I believe. So how did you both get involved in It Feeds, and how did your filming experience compare for this film with your added history of having that previous film experience together?
Yeah. So Ashley and I had a great time making Aftermath here in Los Angeles, and I coincidentally, so we shot the film in Hamilton, Ontario, and I'm from Canada, and my brother lives in Hamilton. So the way that the film came along was so crazy. I had booked a trip to go visit my brother, And then I got a email from my agents about a week after I'd booked the flight being like, hey, you got a film offer. Like, there's a film offer coming through. And I was like, oh man, I'm about to go on this trip. I really want to go see my brother. Let me take a look. And it shot in Hamilton. I was like, no way. And they're like, you need to decide now. I was like, I'm already going to be up there. Yes, let's do this. It was much more complex than that because I obviously read the script and loved it and all that, and found out Ashley was involved. But it was coincidental that I was going to be in Hamilton when the film was shooting. But yeah, there was two things that really drew me to the role. One obviously was getting to work with Ashley again. You know, she's fantastic, and working with her, just the experience was awesome. I loved the script. And also Randall was the character that I play. Randall is a character that I haven't quite played before. You know, I wouldn't say he's like the villain of the piece, but I think Randall is forced to make bad decisions to sort of, you know, save his family. And I liked that the character was sort of the instigator in throwing this monkey wrench in Ashley's character's world. And yeah, it was just fun. And I got along with Chad right away. Chad Archibald, the writer director, and it just felt like
that's
the kind of
surprising
movie I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, he's such a hard dude to get along.
Yeah, you know
right?
that he's like the nicest guy in the world. But you know, it's interesting. Like sometimes you don't want the easiest person to get along with from your leader, from your filmmaker, and he kind of has that. He straddles that like really fine line of being like an incredibly nice guy, but also a very, very sure leader. And that's really what you want especially when you're making an independent film. You know, you want someone that can guide you and knows exactly what they're doing and what the production needs to do. And often, like, you know, as actors, you come into a independent film, you don't have time for rehearsals. You don't have time for a lot of discussion. So really, when you get together on set to shoot a scene for that day, it's the first time you've really all said the lines together. And sometimes you just have to trust that the vision of the writer director in this case is very, very strong. And no matter what happens on that day or where the scene goes, he is leading it and he knows exactly what he wants. And that was my experience. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly it's a very personal film to him, and of course he's still a massive horror fan too. So it's always I love seeing his projects kind of intersect in that sort of that crossroads where it's like you know, you could very much take like a horror film and make it just a regular horror film, but it always seems to have this kind of personal touch from him on it. How was it like? You know, let's talk about your character, Randall Harris, as well, because he's definitely operating on a very, you know, questionable moral compass, but it's not necessarily black or white. It's really in that gray area. Did you what did you lean on for inspiration? Like, obviously Chad's going to direct you in a certain way. He's got a vision for the film, but you know, after reading the script, like, what did you kind of draw from as far as inspiration from kind of pulling him from the pages and putting him on the screen?
Well, immediately I could relate to the choices he was making. You know, I have a family, and I think that when something this horrible is happening to your family, you make any choice you could to sort of alleviate the pain of from your child, basically. And so that was immediate. I didn't look at him as the villain. I looked at him as a loving father who was put in a horrible position and he had to make choices. He wasn't making good choices, but I understood the choices he was making. And I don't want to give too much of away, obviously, too many spoilers, but that was, so at the core and on the page, I understood that. And then Chad and I had some great discussions leading up to it. He sort of walked me through his headspace and his emotional state when he wrote the film and kind of what the deeper meanings of the film were for him. And I could relate on a very personal level to where some of the catharsis and pain in the writing and in the script came from, dealing with trauma, dealing with loss. And again, you know, Chad, I think there's some personal stuff that maybe he would want to discuss, or maybe he doesn't want to discuss about how he wrote the film and what it means. But I related to that. And something that he also said to me was, I was finding a hard time jumping into Randall, because when we meet Randall on screen, he's at like a 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he sort of stays there. You know, you don't get the backstory of Randall. He just shows up at Cynthia's house and like yanks his daughter away. And then we don't really know why or how, but it's this very heightened performance. And Chad was like, think about it like the prequel to this movie would be Randall's story and losing his wife and discovering this entity, but we're finding Randall at like the last act of his movie, which is the first act of this movie. And that really helped me kind of create a backstory for him, and with Chad sort of like figuring out what the process of this entity being attached to his wife was like, and what that hell would have been for him. So to kind of create that backstory and just that, having that thought process of like, okay, I'm coming into this movie in Randall's fourth act. I thought it was a really cool way of thinking about it, and adding context and making sure that it felt like Randall had this history and it was lived in, and to really feel the kind of like the traumatic events that has led to us seeing him on screen for the first time.
And when did you kind of know that when you read the script? Like was there a certain like obviously no spoilers, but at kind of like, was it the halfway mark? Like, it was in the first kind of opening pages or something like that,
Well,
that you were like, wow, this is kind of like, this is because he's an intricate, complex character that you don't necessarily see in a lot of horror films.
yeah, well, I think another version of this guy would have been to cast someone who was more physically like dominant, like a bigger, darker, like big beard, like all that kind of stuff. And I think that would have been a certain way. But again, Chad said, I think that Randall is making bad decisions, but you also wanted to picture him pre all of this horrible stuff happening at the park with his daughter pushing her on the swing. You know what I mean? He's not a bad guy. The circumstances have made him have to commit these crimes and make these decisions. So that was kind of on the page from the get-go, as it started to reveal like why he was doing it, and but as far as me being hooked into the movie, I pretty much knew after that sort of like opening teaser where, Cynthia's inside this person's head and is sort of like the idea of this like psychic therapy, I thought was really interesting, like astral projection, or I just thought that was a cool take on this kind of genre. And then obviously when things get going, it's not as simple as like, well, I'm just going to enter someone's mind and work through their trauma and help them out. It's like, now there's another living entity that's involved in this, and Cynthia doesn't want to face it because of her past with her husband and all that. I thought that was like a really interesting take on this kind of movie, like a possession kind of. It's not really quite a possession film, but it's like, there's this entity that's stuck with you. And the other thing that I loved, and I'm a huge genre fan. Like, I love horror films. I've been in a ton of horror films. When I'm reading a script, there's a couple things I'm looking for. One, can I poke holes in it? Because if I can poke holes in it as the reader, the audience is going to poke holes in it. And that's not as easy. It's hard. It's easier said than done. I've been in films where I'm like, man, it's such a cool concept, and I think we've got it covered. But then when you really sit back and watch it, you're like, there's holes here and there. I really couldn't poke holes in this story. And the other thing that I liked is that the entity or the creature isn't overly explained. We're given a few hints, but I think I'm sort of sick of seeing characters that come in and have all the answers. Like, well, here's the book that will explain it, or here's the expert, here's the ghost hunter, here's this, here's that. And then there's there's a lore where it's like, well, we have the silver bullet that's going to kill this, or we have, this thing is unknown to everybody. And so it's up to the characters in real time to sort of deduce what this thing is and how to stop it. And I think that really ups the stakes. There's no out. There's no character that comes in and explains what this thing is, or, well, you need this spell, or you need this incantation, or you need this artifact to stop this thing. It's like, we don't know. We have no idea what it is. We do know how to like deflect it from doing what it does, but that's only temporary. And it sort of reminded me in the best possible way of, I'm blanking on the name in the film, but it's where like it was like an allegory for a sexually transmitted disease. But like when you sleep with somebody,
It follows.
It follows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It had, without like stepping on its toes, it had that same idea of like, this thing just keeps coming and keeps coming. And again, that relentless, entity is it's Jason Voorhees, it's Michael Myers, it's all these things that just keeps coming. It's unstoppable. And that is scary, right? Like, so it had that element that I thought was really interesting, and it works really well within the genre. But like I said, this was a slightly different take on it, which I really enjoyed.
And
Yeah.
sorry, gals, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head there with the idea that I think as audiences, a lot of the time you expect there to be like very clearly laid out, like this is what this is where it comes from, this is da, da, da. But I love the concept of a kind of supernatural horror where you're going into this mystery, like not knowing where it comes from or how to fix it or how to resolve it.
Mm.
I think that's such an interesting way to explore a story because you're not just like everything's laid out on a plate for you and you know exactly why all the answers are or all the questions have all the answers to them and it kind of takes away the fun of the audience. So I think this did a really great job of
Well,
engaging with that.
and the genuine terror of putting yourself in that circumstance where like there
Yeah.
are no answers. There's no one here to save you. So it's like Cynthia, it's Ashley's character's decision making that will decide whether they live or die or how the rest of their story goes. And again, it empowers the characters to make decisions. And I think sometimes when you try to explain the entity too much, that's when you can start poking holes. So it's like the
Yeah.
characters in this kind of story are allowed to make bad decisions because they don't make dumb decisions. That's the difference. When you're given the answers or and then characters are making dumb decisions, it's frustrating for an audience. I think that you're allowed as a character in a film like this to make a bad decision because you're just making the best decision with the information you have, which is not a lot. So that's the other thing. When I see characters making dumb choices in films, that bothers me. It doesn't bother me when a character is making a bad decision because that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things I love about, especially about genre films too, is that I love putting myself in that situation and being like, and I love movies that do this too, where I'm sort of like, yeah, but just check that other door. Like I go check that other door, and then the character goes and checks the other door, and then you're like, oh, okay, well now I don't know what to do. Right?
Yeah, now what?
I'm out of answers, and I'm under no stress being sitting at home watching the movie or in the theater.
Yeah, well, you're with them, right? You're like, that's how you get sucked in. Is like, okay. It's very satisfying when a character, again, makes this decision that you would make. And we all like to think like, oh, we'd make the right decision. We're smart. And then when they do that, like you said, then you're like, oh, yeah, yes. But then also, but that didn't solve the problem. So now I'm with them. I'm not smarter than them. I'm not ahead of the character. I'm with them. And it's a hard thing to achieve. But again, I think as long as you're making sure your characters don't make dumb choices, the audience will stay with you.
Yeah. I know that the idea behind this film too, there's a lot of rich backstory as well that is sort of mentioned but not really explored. I think there's tons of ways that people can create their characters. And of course you mentioned you've worked with Ashley before, and that was a treat to kind of become part of the cast because she was involved too. But you share a lot of demanding and emotionally demanding scenes with a lot of the other characters, especially Ellie O'Brien, who plays Jordan. When I watched it again, we just got back from Panic Fest in Kansas City, and it really is an ensemble cast that Chad was able to put together, and it kind of fleshes out sort of all these characters as well as the story kind of progresses.
Yeah, I mean, Ellie and Ashley to me, really carry the film, right? I mean, it's you find your way into the story through those characters and that relationship, and the real key trauma of losing, Cynthia's husband, Jordan's dad, is kind of what pulls you in. But then as you're on the journey, it's like, Juno's character Agatha is this amazing character that pops up. Randall's daughter is an incredible character, and performance is so grounded and real and raw from the second she shows up Shailene shows up on screen. And again, I think a lot of that is Chad being a great director, and also choosing the right actors for the part, and also it's on the page, like the characters were well fleshed out, and I think Chad put a lot of thought into each of these characters' situations, and so yeah, it was a real pleasure to work with everybody, and it's especially nice to come home to Canada and make a film like this, something that I think is exciting and also commercial, and yet has a real point of view, and I feel like is a well-crafted movie, not just like, okay, it's just a genre movie we're going to put out. Like, I think it looks good. The the sound design, the sets, the special effects, like everything really came together. And it's rare that you like a script and then when it's all said and done, you sit and you watch the movie and you're like, wow, that really, really came out like I wanted it to. So I was very, very happy with how well It Feeds came out.
Yeah, I can tell you that we just saw it with the first audience ever, and it's a scary movie too. And we noticed like we were kind of sitting sort of in the back, and I was noticing a few people that started jumping more and more throughout the film. Like it gets scarier and scarier once you kind of know what's at stake, kind of when you kind of get to know the characters, right? So it's a super fun experience too, as well as if you like genre films and being and having the shit scared out of you, right? So
and there's nothing better than being in a movie and knowing where the scares are and sitting and watching with an audience, because you're like, which ones worked, which ones don't.
Yeah.
And
That's
I'm
what we were
often
doing.
surprised at the ones that I think like, that's not going to be as scary. It really, it really gets people sometimes. And I've been known to jump at scares that I know are already coming, so it's fun. Again, this is the reason to go see a film with an audience. And I think genre films in particular are amazing because you have this shared, experience, and you're all terrified at the same time, or you're laughing at the same time, or you're emotional at the same time. I think genre stuff can really bring out the best of that in an audience. So it's always fun to see a movie like this with a group of people.
Yeah, there's such a sense of community in a horror audience, I think, especially when you go see something at a film festival. Like, everybody there is like just gunning to see what happens with this movie. They don't know anything about it. This is the first time anyone's seeing it. And just there's this sense of like camaraderie, I think, of just going along for the ride. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so fun.
Go ahead,
Kels,
Trevor.
go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I know you mentioned before that you've done a lot of genre film, that you are a genre fan yourself. I know this is a cliche question, and like every horror movie is your child, as with every horror fan, because how can you? But what's your favorite scary movie? Have to ask. And bonus question: did you have a favorite to film?
Okay, so my favorite, I are kind of the classics. Like, I mean, right next to me, you can't see, but I have like a Shining poster. I love Rosemary's Baby, and I love The Exorcist, but I also love The Thing. I love Alien. I love, there's something about genre films that, I don't know, a great genre film can sort of take the ordinary and make it extraordinary. Like, you're given this license to sort of like tell a heightened story. And that's what I like. And I like seeing, when it's done well, smart characters in dire situations and how they react. And it's a weird thing because like, I would never, ever, ever want to be in any of these situations, but I am fascinated by watching people in life or death situations or in these super heightened situations, like survive or struggle to solve these issues, these riddles that they're kind of dealing with. I like, again, I don't like them all, but I think those classic ones are what kind of molded me. I think Psycho was one of my favorites too. I saw that when I was 9. I was probably too young. It really it wormed into my brain, and I couldn't really fathom it. And it's also such a slow burn. So I was like, okay, what is this movie about? I loved it. But then when, Norman Bates is the mother and it's like, wait, she's dead and she's pickled and I just couldn't really fathom it. So that really affected me, I think.
I had the same thing. My dad showed me like The Shining when I was 11, and because Jack Nicholson was his favorite actor, which is like we've just determined on this show as well that every father's favorite actor apparently is Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, but, he's pretty good.
But yeah, I mean that film always lingers with me for the same reason, where I was like, I think I understand what's going on, but I had no idea. And I watch it now and I'm like, man, this is a totally different movie than I remember.
Yeah. Well, but also I still don't understand The Shining. Not really. But I mean that in the best possible way. It's like every time I watch it, I think I have a grasp on the meaning of him at the end in the picture, the meaning of him dealing with his alcoholism and talking to everybody, the meaning of the woman in the bathtub, but I don't, not really. But that's what's great about it. It's just this kind of unknown, evil presence, and you're just seeing glimpses of the truth. And I've never fully understood the film or its journey, and I don't think you're supposed to. I think that's not the point, especially Kubrick's version of it. I don't think you're really supposed to understand fully. I think it's more of like an experience, and it's like just a completely bizarre, horrible nightmare. Yeah, which again is terrifying for an 11-year-old, I'm sure. The movie that I saw as a kid that really scared me, though, that where I couldn't sleep at night, was Pet Sematary. And I've watched it once, and I've never watched it again. I don't even know if it's a scary movie, but it scared the crap out of me. And again, I was like maybe 9, and I just could at night. If I had to go to the bathroom, I wouldn't get out of bed because the kid would be in there like slicing my Achilles, and Zelda, like the sister. And I was just like, this is like haunting and bizarre. And I don't understand it. And I've never seen it since because it scared me so much. And again, maybe it's not even that effective. I just, at the time, remember being like, nope, not getting out of bed. But there's probably months where I like would not get out of bed because I thought somebody was under my bed.
Yeah, totally.
Scarred for life.
All I know is like we got to have you back on the show again, man, because we got to talk about horror like in depth and a whole bunch of other stuff, I think,
well,
because,
and
like,
I don't know if we have time, but to answer your question about my favorite one to shoot, I did a movie. I did a movie called Frozen, and I think that was one of my favorite genre films for 2 reasons. One, I met my wife on that, so I have incredible memories from that. But also, when I read the script, I loved the script, but I was like, this reads like a play. Like, can we pull this off as a film? Like, once we get stuck up there about 10 pages or 15 pages into the movie, we're basically up there. Like, how do you make that work as a film? And we were on the side of a mountain. We had a single camera. It was like a super techno crane. And we were just up there from the moment we started to the we got off at lunch, but we had to ride all the way around on the mountain and got off. And I was just incredibly proud with how that film came out, just because it was such like it's just a character piece. It's also terrifying. It's also like, survival horror I've always enjoyed as well. So yeah, I think that was probably one of the hardest movies I've ever made, but also satisfying. We shot it in Utah and we premiered at Sundance, and like that whole, just the fact that the movie was showing. And then the next day, people were going to get up and go on ski lifts and thinking about like, oh my God, what if we get stuck up here? I was like, what a perfect place to sort of premiere this film. So that was a special one.
You only let them down when they buy tickets to go see the movie, right? That's
exactly.
how I would approach it. So listen, speaking of the film in buying tickets and stuff like that, I don't think this won't be a secret when this airs, but I think you are coming to the premieres that are happening in Ontario.
Yes, I'm
Hamilton
I'm
and Toronto.
Yes, so coming up on the 16th for the Scotiabank premiere, and then I think the 17th is the Hamilton premiere. So yeah, I'll be there for both those. Very excited.
Awesome, that's amazing. And of course, April 16th, the Toronto premiere is part of National Canadian Film Day. Of course, a great event that shows films across the nation. And we're happy to be part of that. Obviously, presented by Real Canada, and happy to be involved with their team over there. Can't wait. Right now, the Toronto premiere sold out. It sold out in record time, which is super awesome. So packed house. And of course, if you haven't got your tickets for Hamilton, if there are still tickets left, please go and do that. It's at a beautiful theater, a beautiful cinema called the Playhouse. We go there all the time, and it's a fantastic venue. So I'm sure we'll chat. We got to make sure we don't get stuck. The 3 of us don't get stuck somewhere talking like all kinds of horror films.
in the corner somewhere. Yeah.
Miss our cues.
To be honest.
Yeah. Well, Shawn, thanks again for making the time. I really appreciate it, man. And congratulations on the new film. It's excellent, and you're fantastic in it. And I hope for big things. And I'm saying that biasly and unbiasedly, of course. Listen, if you're bored one day and want to come back on the show, we'd love to have you, and we can chat some more for sure. Chad owes me $5 because I didn't ask any X-Men questions. So there you go.
Oh, you gotta ask that. I feel like there's like this thing where people are like, oh, we don't want to ask about that, but I'm like, I love talking about the X-Men stuff. I mean, that was such a huge part of my life and career and opportunities. So I'm always open to X-Men stuff.
Awesome.
We just did another podcast, and Chad was like, someone asked me, and he's like, oh, I've always wanted to ask you that question. I was like, bro, we work together. Why wouldn't you ask me that stuff?
Well, listen, we'll have you back on the program, and we'll chat some more if you're able to. Like I said, we'll see you this Wednesday and Thursday for sure in Toronto and Hamilton. And everyone get your tickets for It Feeds. It's and it's going to be launching theatrically as well on April 18th, as well as VOD on April 18th in the US. And of course, I'd be remiss by saying that Black Fawn Distro does have a Blu-ray coming, and that'll be coming out closer to the fall. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Shawn, thanks again. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you so
we'll see you
much.
soon.
Thanks for having me, guys.